How do you TGIF late night? When the food and the vibes are too good to call it a night? Strawberry Henny cocktail with the crew? Or a little the Fridays to go to keep the party going at home? How you Fridays is up to you. How much fun you have late night is on us. Visit TGI Fridays, late night.
Life is full of firsts. First steps and first successes. First dates and first dances. First looks and first loves. For every first, make your health first.
This is the first day of my life.
Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's not just our name, it's our promise.
In This League College Fantasy Football Podcast with host Scott Bogman,
the Gridiron Scholar,
John Long, Eric Froten from NBC Sports Urge, and Nick Allen, owner of CFB Winning Edge. College Fantasy Starting Football Podcast. Now.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the In This League College Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. Joined as always by the Gridiron Scholar, John Lobb at Gridiron Scholar 91, and Eric Froton at CF Froton. Eric, how has your week been going, my friend?
Pretty good. I rode 5-0 to the props column, of course. I've been 16-3 over the past 3 weeks, 87% win percentage. So
get it.
We're riding a hot streak there, of course. But I did want to take the time to address something before we got into the show on my account. Last week, I got a little animated when discussing some of the rules issues regarding a league that myself and Scott were in. And I do want to apologize to our friend Nick, because I definitely got over my shoes a little bit, and I don't want that, just a couple of rules issues, to overshadow the incredible work that Nick does, which, as Scott, as you know, anytime, which is quite often, the listeners of the show know, anytime I cite any of Nick's stats, I speak of it in glowing terms. That goes for any of the other shows I'm on, as well as all my columns. He does excellent work at the CFB Winning Edge Patreon. And just because, I had some friendly disagreements with some of the rules that Nick he's already gone through pretty good lengths to change them. I don't want anybody to think that has anything to do with how I feel about his incredible abilities when it comes to predicting games, because he's really excellent in what he does there. So I did want to get that out of the way.
You are a stickler for the rules. You hate the 4-point passing touchdown. You don't like the churning of the wire, the way that he has it. And you probably don't like the 4 teams making the playoff because it incentivizes to tank. And I understand that, but you have to draw a weird line there, right? Between wanting to replicate what college football is like, where only 4 teams make the playoff at this point, versus having more teams make it, but it's less like the real thing. So it's kind of, what do you want to do? His league is a 4, which thankfully now I'm in a playoff spot right now.
Bogsy is in now.
Look, we got one more regular season week to go. And if I drop this one, and I also didn't take a trade from Bainbridge, which it's one of it could be that Ron Burgundy, I immediately regret this decision, but he wanted a first-round pick or Cardwell for Kenneth Walker. And I just don't know. Like, Kenneth Walker has Maryland this week. That's a great matchup. But in the playoff, they play Ohio State and Michigan. So I think, or no, they just play Michigan. They have two. They have 2 tough matchups.
Oh no, Penn State,
Penn State, and Ohio State. So I was like,
trust me.
I don't know if I want to trade
it. He came with me. He came to me with that deal. So I did the same thing. Plus, I don't know if I'll be able to get up. And we got 2 weeks left, right? I think we got 2, 10 and 11.
Do we have 2?
And then 12 and 13 for the playoffs.
You're right. This week is a tough matchup for me, too. So this week is a tough matchup for me. So because the guy I'm playing, I think his record is 5-4, but he has like the second or third most points in the league. So he's up over 2,200 points, something like that. So it's one of those.
That's real good for that league. Real good.
Yeah. Look, anything Eric says is with passion, not with anger. That's kind of how I take Eric. So I think Nick also took it that way. So John, how have you been, my friend?
Well, I want to make sure everybody knows. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm doing very good. My wife and I are down the shameless rabbit hole watching the final season.
Oh, wow. I didn't get to the final season, but I've seen a lot of Shameless.
Oh, I binge watched the whole 1 through 10. I think we're on year 11. Wow. 1 through 10 in the pandemic. And then I just saw Netflix had Shameless season 11. So I said to Danielle, you want to watch it? Oh my God. Sometimes we're just watching that show. I'm shaking my head like, oh my God. And then the other day I felt so bad. My daughter comes into the bedroom and we have Shameless on, I'm like, where's the remote? I got to
change it.
I don't want her to know. Like, you never know what they're going to say or do. But other than that, life is great.
Yeah. I mean, look, we'll reflect back on this week. But I'm not going to do the Texas game. I was actually more mad. I knew how the Texas game was going to end. I'm more mad about other stuff this week. It's 2 calls that I made on Betting Pros that absolutely screwed me at the end. The Florida State Clemson over on the stupid lateral play where Clemson scored at the end of the game had me so mad. So mad. I mean, because you're following your logic. It's correct. Your logic is correct. And I still get hosed on that game. And the other one, Eric talked about it on this show last week. I looked into it a little deeper and put it on my sheet as well. The ULM plus 27.5. They'd averaged 31 points since the nepotism of Rich Rodriguez's son playing quarterback had gone out the window with his bad injury. Luckily, he's fine. But with Rodgers back there, they were great. Rodgers was horrible against App State. Got benched. They bring in Jaya Wright. He is slinging it. He's running it. He's scoring points for them. 2 minutes left in the game. They're at the App State 4, about to go in and score, down 31. And I'm like, all right, they just need to score this touchdown. Then App State's going to sit on it. Game's over. I win this bet. And they fumbled at the 2. App State picked it up and then sat on it, ran the clock out and won by 31. And I was livid. So I'm more about the bad beats this week than I'm over Texas losing. Old news. So, but that is what really, really got to me this week. Eric, what got to you when you're looking back at week 9?
Well, I mean, I got to give it to you, Boggsy. You called it last week. Texas gets out to a 2-score lead, right? Just like they do every single week, Scotty. I'm empathizing with you here. I'm not making fun of you. I'm feeling your pain.
No, I know.
And the second half, what do? They come out. I mean, you said it. All I can do is think of you when I'm watching this, and I'm just like, oh my God, they're going to do it again. And oh boy, did they do it again. Big time, 21 points in the second half.
Some tough teams, some tough teams that they've been playing, but also like make it a goddamn adjustment in the second half from what you've seen. And they don't. And the other teams do. And that's how they get
21-10. They're cruising.
Yeah.
They come out in the third quarter, come out and score. With you there, that was a tough one, buddy. But then, Auburn, you got to give it to Auburn. They have played really good ball over the past few weeks. They came out and handled Mississippi. You got to give it to Tanks Bigsby. He had been banged up. You'd heard kind of rumblings how he had been not quite to full health over the course of the past month or so. He came out and he rolled it up on Ole Miss. No problems. And then on the same token, gosh, you look at Mississippi, you get a feel for Matt Corral. All 3 of his starting wide receivers gone. Adios. Drummond, Sanders, Johnny's boy Mingo, gone. He didn't have anybody to throw to. It was Ja'Cour Pearson. He had to go and put up 130 yards receiving on 7 receptions. Basically, the only receiver he had left that was upright. So, got to give props to Brian Harsin, who after a somewhat slow start, you've seen Auburn really get it back together, and 3 good wins. Didn't have many problems with them. So, props to Auburn. And then lastly, gosh, if anybody had on their bingo card Arizona keeping pace with USC, a 7-point loss, putting points up on the Trojans. I realize they're still putting things back together in the wake of Clay Helton's dismissal and subsequent today hire at Georgia Southern. They're really asking for it. Good enough for you, Georgia Southern. All right. You want to ride the Clay Helton train, that's your business. But, Arizona actually going out there and doing it. Unfortunately, Jamarie Joyner, who was splitting time with Will Plummer there behind center, is doubtful for this week. So that's unfortunate, since he did make some nice plays and he can certainly run. I mean, as we see, he's a converted wide receiver. But, that's something that I certainly didn't see. I'd expected USC to be a lot more dominant. But, hey, in comes Jackson Dart, it's literally first game he's even remotely healthy and he suits up. Adios, for purposes. No matter what, CBS Sports is terrible. They had him, I believe, going 20 at their recent mock draft. I almost fell out of my chair when I read that.
Slovis they had? Boy, you broke up there a little bit.
They had Slovis there at 20. I could not believe it. But, bottom line is I got to see a transfer portal postseason coming here. So it doesn't make sense right now because you don't get anything for it. But, man, I don't see any reason why he'd stick around. Jackson Dart is clearly the preferred guy there, and they're going to get him reps for the rest of the season since he's young, and they want to see what they got with him.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that. And Arizona screwed me a couple times as far as betting against them goes. So I'm just a stay away from Arizona. Look, they're going to bow up and play good when you don't expect them to. They're going to play terrible when you do expect them to play better. There's no rhyme or reason. So I'm done betting with Arizona. They're too wild.
Amen, Bugsy.
Yeah, John, what do you see from this weekend?
Usually I want to come on and I want to hammer Harbaugh for his Neanderthal offense. I have to be honest. I was impressed. The Wolverines came out and threw the ball. They had a great game plan.
They switched players up too, John. Like they were trying stuff.
Hey, man, McNamara, I didn't even know it was in his realm of possible outcomes. He threw for 383 yards. That is insane. I watched every Michigan game this year. He never looked that good, and I believe he was playing a couple games late last year. He was accurate. He had the pocket. They threw the ball downfield. I give him credit. I'm an adult. I don't ever blame the refs for a loss, period. I don't care. Any Michigan fan, what?
Amen.
It's sour grapes.
Yeah.
It's sour grapes.
It is. If you are in that position, where a call can make or break you, you shouldn't have won that game anyway.
Scott, we are up 30-14. 30-14 with an alleged great offensive line and 2 running backs. And then we stopped throwing. So I don't even want to hear about it. This was a Kenneth Walker day. Give credit where credit is due.
I was shocked, John, to not see him climb up to the top of the Heisman rankings after that 5-touchdown game.
You know why?
It's still Corral.
Yeah, but you also have Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Yeah, Young is one, and Corral's 2, and then Walker.
The longer this season goes on and players fall down, it's going to be the Alabama quarterback if they win every game outright till the end. I don't want it. I don't think he deserves it, but it's going to probably be the Alabama. It's going to be Young unless they falter. And I do believe the vote. Is the vote take place before the SEC championship game?
No, I think it's after the game, but it's before the bowls.
So then they might give them a pass on Georgia. Like, it's Georgia. That's an all-time great defense. So they could but that's an interesting question. But
I think if Jared Davis has a big game, he can put his name in there. But if Michigan State goes undefeated, I think Kenneth Walker wins it. I do.
Yeah, if they go undefeated, I would agree with you. That I agree. I just don't think they're going to go undefeated.
Me neither. Yeah.
And I'll say this. I'm old enough. I saw Charles Woodson. He won it. He played both sides of the ball. He beat Ohio State. And Dominic Sue had the greatest season I have ever seen from a defensive player in my life. and that includes Hugh Green.
That's a good point.
Derek Thomas at Alabama. If people don't know how good Derek Thomas was at Alabama, better turn on that YouTube and watch some highlights of that man at Alabama. I mean, I get the Georgia young man is good, but he isn't in that breath. He isn't. I'm sorry. He's great, but it's the whole scheme. He has 6 incredible players around him. Anyways, I'm going off track.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get you, John.
I mean, so I don't lose when Kenneth Walker has a day for the millennia with 5 touchdowns. I think he had 4 in the second half. I'm not upset.
Yeah, what did they say? They said that no one had ran for 5 touchdowns against a top 10 team since like 1993 or something.
Yeah.
Like it was a long time coming.
Scott, he played sensational. And you know what's interesting? Because then as I'm watching, I started to take more notes. Kenneth Walker has much better vision than people ever give him credit for. He has great cutback. He's good, man. Like, he might go in the second round of the NFL draft. I know your Steelers just grabbed Najee, so there's no reason, but he does look like a Steeler AFC North runner. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, like that cold weather, Green Bay maybe, but they got too much talent in the backfield. But that's the type of runner. He's good, man. Anyways, so I'm not mad. I just hope Harbaugh continues to throw the ball. Just throw the football. You got some talent there. And I'll say this. I'm tired of McCarthy getting in the game in key spots. He fumbled that ball. I'm tired of it. Stop it. Just play McNamara. But that's the end of that. At least they threw the ball, and they look like a 21st century offense. So I'm happy about it. Simultaneously, the same time, I got Miami-Pittsburgh on because I'm scouting Kenny Pickett. And in DFS, I played Tyler Van Dyke because he was so cheap on DraftKings. Oh, my God. And I paired him up with Keyshawn Smith, the wide receiver for Miami. So I'm all invested. What a great game. I mean, Pickett in a losing effort, 519 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Jordan Addison, we heard like around 10 in the morning, he was on the field warming up. I didn't think he was even going to play. I had Tyseer Mack. He still had a game, 5 for 92, but Addison to come out 9 for 145. What a terrific season. Addison's having a great year that no one's talking about. Obviously, Pickett is sensational, but I think the Hurricanes, they have something maybe. Van Dyke and this Jalen Knighton. If you have not been watching him, he's really good. He's a sensational pass catcher. All he does is produce fantasy points on a weekly basis. The Hurricanes actually have something going here. I think they got the little offense, get some more parts next year, play a little better defense. And then, of course, it's, 9:30, 10 at night. I got to watch my man, Brennan Armstrong. They sucked me into the goddamn vortex, and I'm up until about 12:30. But, 66-49 BYU Virginia. I mean, what a game. Maybe not as shocking as Wake Forest and Army the week before, because I just never would have thought Army and Wake Forest 126. But, man, I did not expect Virginia BYU to be 66-49. Armstrong went off, won me a couple games last week. I was like down by 38. I think I shattered. He had like 53, obviously, depending on the scoring system and all that. So I won that. Jaron Hall looks for real. He's been good, man. Yeah. He's a player. I mean, BYU's got a good defense. They have some wide receivers. They have the 2 brothers. Is it Nakau? Is that how you pronounce the 2 brothers' name? I think.
I'm not sure.
Okay, they're very good. They didn't even have Romney in this game, BYU. And Ontavian Wicks, man, he might be in the top 5 waiver wire players of the year as long as Brendan Armstrong plays. Luckily, Virginia has the week off. We think Armstrong has a broken rib. We don't know. There's been no confirmation.
I mean, didn't they lip read that he was saying it's broken?
That's what I read.
It wasn't hard to lip read that one. Yeah, he came off and was like literally pointing, going, hey, broken rib. Like 10 times. He wasn't subtle about it.
It looked bad, and that's actually when I fell asleep. I was like, I won the games. He's out. I'm out. I'm going to bed. But Hall, 3 touchdowns, 349 yards. But I wanted to end tonight. I know, look, I love Kenneth Walker now. But Tyler Algier, how many fantasy games were changed?
Yeah.
266 yards and 5 touchdowns.
The leading running back this week.
It's shocking because everyone's talking about Kenneth Walker and almost no one spoke about Tyler Algier. Was it just too late? Did people not see the game? Did they not look at the box score?
That's what it is, dude. It's too late. That's what it is.
He literally had statistically, a better game than Walker. Now, granted, Virginia's defense isn't even in the same realm as Michigan, so I understand a little bit about that. But then you look at the numbers for the year. They are the second and third leading rushers in the nation behind Sean Tucker. Walker has 1,194. Algier has 1,132. Algier has 16 touchdowns. Walker has 14. The difference is yards per carry. Walker has 6.8. Algier has 5.7. But Algier deserves, I don't think he's Heisman because I think the schedule BYU's lost twice. I'm not saying that. But from a fantasy standpoint, Tyler Algier over the last month has been as good as anyone in college fantasy football. He's unbelievable lately. If you haven't seen him, you better catch some BYU football games because their offense is fun.
Yeah. I mean, they are fun to watch. If you're up late as an East Coaster and you're missing BYU, they are a lot of fun to watch. Eric, you got one more?
Oh, I have a little anecdote about Tyler Algier and Mr. Kenneth Walker. John, I don't know if you realize this, but in your league, the Kings Classic, I put up 256 points. I was winning. I faced Jared and Xavier, who had both Tyler Algier and Kareem Walker on their team.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. So even though he had both of them, I was still winning because I had almost my entire lineup go for at least 25 points. I had a great game. I scored the second most points in the league.
I knew that.
And it was an important game. But yeah, what beat me is, and Jared is DMing me as this is happening. And I'm up. He's like, barring a big game on Algier. And by the time the second half rolled around, I'm like, listen, Jared, I know you're new to this a little bit. We tell you, as a 20-year veteran of college fantasy football, this game's over. This game is over. Okay, Virginia is not playing any defense, and Tyler Algier is going to beat me. Watch. He's like, and he's playing humble, because he's a nice kid. But I knew as soon as the second half came, and I'm like, there is no defense being played here, and I am in serious trouble. Yeah, and sure enough, he goes and scores that last touchdown, and it was like I knew it. I knew it was coming. I didn't even get angry. I didn't even get upset. I was just
something.
I hate that feeling.
Oh, it's like 5 points. Yeah,
I hate that feeling, Eric, where you just know.
Impending.
Yeah, it's impending doom. You're right. It's 100%. You just know that it's coming. Unlike me with this under. I was like, no way. Like, no one's going to score here, right? And I'm completely shocked when it happens. The worst part about the whole thing was that everyone's on the field celebrating. Game's over. They didn't count the touchdown, whatever. And the refs make everyone get off the field, go back to the sideline, then review it, and then give them I got to get over it. I'm not over it yet, quite. So if you guys couldn't figure that out.
You shouldn't be. I understand. Hey, I get it.
Yeah, but
we've all been there.
We've all been there. So, but let's go.
You have a sympathetic audience if there ever was one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's if you're playing CFF, you're a degenerate. So this is just the way it goes. So,
yes.
But let's go. Let's go look at the high over/under games for Week 10, Johnny. And we start out with a high of 76.5 points on the over for Wake Forest and UNC, and the line is only UNC by 2.5 points. So this is going to be an explosive, fun offensive game that'll probably end up with 34 points since it's 76.5 is the over, John. But what do we think of this game, and who are you grabbing and stashing and all that good stuff?
I was looking at this. I think the last 2 times we've had big, like 77, 80, we had 180-point game. I think both times they came on the under. So we're looking again at 11 touchdowns. So I'm trying to think, is this one going to actually reach over? Because I mean, Wake Forest, man, they are just so unbelievably good right now. They're undefeated. Oh, I forgot. Were they even in the top 10 in the CFP polls today?
I don't know if they were in the top 10, but they're very good.
Which is shocking because they lead the ACC and they're undefeated. But man, obviously you got to play Sam Hartman, Jakari Roberson, A.T. Perry. Last I looked, I think he just jumped Roberson in like fantasy points this year. ATP, he's been playing so well. Christian Beal-Smith is always worth starting, especially in this type of over-under atmosphere.
They actually were. They were 9, by the way.
They were 9. Okay. So I knew Cincinnati was 6. So that's at least they got an outside shot. If they run the table, I think it'll be hard to keep them out. But North Carolina, I'm trying to think like where are the points coming from? You have Howell and Josh Downs. That's basically the whole offense. Once in a while, Ty Chandler pops up, right? But none of these other receivers, tight ends you can count on. Maybe one of them for the Tar Heels has a great game, but I'm not putting anyone other than Josh Downs in my lineup. But I do like Chandler. I think you have to take a starting running back with that type of over-under. They're at home. I think you have to play Chandler this week. If he's on a waiver wire, go get him. You can't bench a running back in a game with that high total as a home underdog. I can't do it. Chandler should explode for one long touchdown here.
All right, the next game here, Eric, we got is another 70-pointer. It's 71 for Utah State, who this one's much closer to our line of 20 points. Are at Utah State 18.5-point road favorites against New Mexico State, but it's a super high over game, 71 points. Is there anyone you're snapping up and wanting to play this week in this game?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, Logan Bonner owned in 6% of leagues, threw for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. In fact, of the past 5 weeks, he's thrown at least 2 touchdowns in all of them in that Blake Anderson offense. It's what Utah State does. They're there to chuck. That being said, their running back there, because Calvin Tyler got hurt, who he came out and he was the bell cow for the first portion of the season, but I'll try to say his name correctly. Elelion Noah. I call him the Ark, Noah's Ark. And 23 carries, 111 yards, and a touch last game. Been pretty good. Frankly, it's been an underrated little honey hole, that Utah State running back room, because if you remember it at Arkansas State when Anderson was there, they did the rotate running backs deal, where you didn't know who was going to do. Is going to be Marcel Murray? Is going to be Lincoln Perry? Who's it going to be this week? But they've settled pretty consistently on one running back, be it Tyler or now Noah. That's been a productive spot. So he's barely owned as well. Definitely somebody you want to take a look at. Obviously, anytime anybody's playing New Mexico State, you want to consider that. Devin Tompkins, everybody knows Devin Tompkins. He's widely owned. You're not going to find him on the waiver wire. However, the crime dog, Justin McGriff, 5 catches, 90 yards, and a touch. He's been pretty darn good because he's serving that outside X wide receiver role that we've seen other teams. We've seen Corey Rucker, for instance, thrive in. Omar Bayless, of course, in the past for Arkansas State. And then Jonathan Adams last year. That's the role that he's playing. Obviously, Tompkins, his talent is so outsized that he gets a lot of work, but McGriff definitely has come out and he's huge. He's 6'6", 215 pounds. He's been pretty good, obviously. And then Derek Wright on the other side in the Y role has also had, probably even more so than McGriff over the past few weeks, has been heavily targeted on the outside. 4 catches, 83 yards, and a touch last week. Week before that against Steve Adazio-led Colorado State. 2 catches, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been the deep threat for that team, 5 for 83 the week before. He's been a consistent PPR high floor performer. So you definitely want to give him some consideration as well there on the Utah State side. And for New Mexico State, yeah, give it to them. I mean, do they give up points? Oh, absolutely. But they score, Jonah Johnson, in particular, 2 weeks ago against a very good Nevada defense. They threw 62 passes against Nevada, first of all. So just by sheer volume, you're going to get some points, 425 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's obviously something you want to consider. But, man, on the wide receiver front, Garcia Castaneda is probably the guy I'd consider, but they spread it around a lot in that wide receiver room. So it's even kind of tough to predict beyond Garcia Castaneda who is going to go off, and you look at last week, that was Nevada 2 games ago. Last week, and they're putting up points, 31 against San Jose State. Now 48 against Hawaii. Obviously, we talked about how they put up 26 against Nevada, but against Hawaii, they actually were running the ball a lot. I mean, it was the Juwan Price show. 17 carries, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. Johnson actually ran for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. He threw a couple interceptions. But, Garcia Castaneda, 6 catches, 82 yards last game. He is definitely, if you have to go with a wide receiver, I'd say him. I can't really recommend any other guys down the board. They're simply going to be too volatile to be able to roster. But against a Utah State team that has obviously been a pretty darn passive defense, I think both of these defenses have been extremely passive. Hence the 71 over-under, which is pretty legitimate. I think you got to roll out Juwan Price if you get the opportunity to. And he is pretty well available in most leagues. So also somebody you could possibly get off the waiver wire.
All right, John, next game up here, SMU, a 5.5-point road favorite on the road against Memphis, 70.5, because these teams don't like playing defense. So who do you like in this game?
Well, that's why I love the American Athletic Conference. No defense out there. But I'm still mad that SMU blew that game against Houston, allowed that 100-yard kickoff. Couldn't even give us an interesting overtime game. And then that also hurts Cincinnati because they needed, in my opinion, an undefeated SMU team in, I think it's the second to last game of the year.
Yep.
And Cincinnati could have really used that. Now, if SMU, even if they drop another by some way, then Cincinnati's just done. They're toast. They're not going to get in. So anyways, great matchup this week for college fantasy football. We know SMU is like the 7th ranked offense in total offense, 504 yards a game, 42 points a game. Tanner Mordecai, and then the big 3 receivers, Gray, Rice, Roberson, and the tight end, Calcaterra. But in the backfield, you better be paying a little bit of attention. Lately, Trey Seegers has been great for the Mustangs. Now, Bentley's been injured. He keeps coming up questionable, but he hasn't been playing. I love Seegers this week a ton in this matchup if we know that Bentley's on the sideline. Bentley's had a terrific year, but if he's not going to play, I am all in on Trey Seegers, who actually leads the team with 5 rushing touchdowns this year. So we have to watch the development, see if Bentley's going to play this week. And then Memphis. I found this interesting because this Peter Parrish, who played quarterback, he's not very good.
That's a nice way to put it.
Not good.
If we don't have Seth Hennigan there, I don't know where all these points are coming from the Memphis side. Now, if Hennigan plays, I'm good to go. He's obviously, the key to this offense humming. But Brandon Thomas has been bad I don't know if I'm going to play him. I benched him. I've even cut him in 1 or 2 leagues because he just has not been playing well. I'm not going to go with Rodriguez Clark yet at this time. I don't feel confident enough in him. And we need, for all of us who own Calvin Austin, Sean Dykes, we are begging, we are crossing our fingers, anything that Hennigan gets back onto that field, because the production of those 2 players are obviously closely related to Hennigan throwing the football.
The next game up here, Eric, is Middle Tennessee on the road against Western Kentucky. Once again, bumping up against that big spread. 15-point favorites are Western Kentucky at home in this game, but 68.5 is the over here. Chase Cunningham, a little nicked up for Middle Tennessee too. So what do we like in this game?
Yeah, definitely. That was something I was obviously going to talk about with Middle Tennessee. Chase Cunningham went out after only 7 passes last game, and he wasn't very good against Southern Miss either until he came in, and he was replaced by Mike DeLillo, and he came in and is more of a running-based quarterback, frankly. 11 carries, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns, only threw 12 passes for 78 yards. So that's something that certainly concerns me, where you're looking at, Pierce, Jalen Marshall, Jalen Lane. You have some wide receivers here that in larger formats are certainly playable. If Cunningham isn't going to play, I'm concerned about the viability of being able to roster those guys, or at least play them because of that, despite the fact that they're obviously going up against a pretty porous defense for Western Kentucky, that even though they're leading the entire nation in receiving, or actually not receiving, in passing, they are still going out there and giving up, 432 yards per game, 256 of those in the air. And, if you're going to be leaning on Middle Tennessee State players here, you got to remember, Charlotte, obviously no Chris Reynolds. They got blown out 45-13 by Western Kentucky. FIU, who I was hoping would have a little bit more backbone, scored 19 points. Some of that was garbage time. And they went and rolled ODU as well, 43-20. So the Western Kentucky defense, despite having to defend a ton of snaps, has done a really nice job in terms of not getting into the shootouts, besides obviously, UTSA, but that's one of the premier offenses in the G5. So you can't really knock them for that. Obviously with Western Kentucky, you're rolling out as many guys as you can in that passing attack. Jarrett Stearns, how many times do we have to talk about him in praiseworthy terms? Of course, you have to play him. Mitchell Tinsley, he's been as consistent as it gets. I've got Dawood Davis in a couple of deeper leagues. I had him in the 50-teamer, have him in the 20-teamer, CFB winning edge with Nick. He's been pretty good on a weekly basis. Malachi Corley. So I think those 4 guys who they roll out there on, pretty consistent basis, pretty consistent. I think, especially in deeper formats, you could try to put them out, given that it's kind of a tough bye week. If you have some Oklahoma guys, that's certainly an issue this week. So that's something you want to consider. But their backfield, man, is it going to be Cofield? He did nothing last game. It looked like he was the guy who was going to do it. Nope. In comes Whittington, 10 carries, 66 yards and a touch. So I don't think you can reasonably depend on them and their rushing attack. I think you got to kind of leave them on the side. But that's, obviously anytime Western Kentucky, you want to roll out as many of those wide receivers as you can get.
Next game up here is Central Michigan on the road against Western Michigan, John. Western Michigan, a 10-point favorite, but a 67.5 over here. What do we like in this game?
First, if our listeners didn't know, it's Tuesday night. Mac Nation is kicked off. I'm already fired up because I have Justin Hall on 2 teams. Put him in my lineup, and he scored 1 touchdown running, 1 touchdown receiving. Let's go, Mac. So the reason I mentioned that also is this game is Wednesday night. So if you have anyone on Western Michigan or Central Michigan, put them in your lineups. If you have not been watching the MAC or you're not paying attention to Central Michigan, Lou Nichols is on a hot streak. He is just scoring points at a prodigious pace. 915 yards right now. He only has 5 touchdowns. But what I like about him, 31 receptions, 211 yards, and additional 2 touchdowns. Lou Nichols is a must start if you have not been paying attention to how well he's been playing. And the Chippewas score points. I don't know if I love their quarterbacks. I guess you could go there. Daniel Richardson, I'm not in love with any of them there. But Pimpleton and Dallas Dixon and Ja'Cory Sullivan all have over 429 yards receiving, all have over 30 receptions, and they have combined for 15 touchdowns. The Chippewas put points on the board. Their offense is fun. Lou Nichols is a must start. Western Michigan, Caleb Ellaby got off to a slow start. He was definitely frustrating. I was very high on him. Lots of people were high on him before the season started. He's been playing a little bit better. He does have a 12-2 touchdown to interception ratio, and he completes 61% of his passes. I like to see that a little bit better. This year, unfortunately, he's only got 30 yards rushing. He's not really a dual threat quarterback, but he does have 3 rushing touchdowns. So that gives you a little bit of something. Obviously, at wide receiver, Sky Moore is the man, one of the better college fantasy football wide receivers people don't talk about. Jalen Hall, I think you can start him in this game if you need to. 29 receptions, 495 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Ladarius Jefferson and Sean Tyler both have been very productive. There is points for CFF owners in this game. You just got to make your decision. Look at your lineup. You got to put them in your lineup before. Hopefully you listen to this before the Wednesday night kicks off.
Yeah. I mean, the Maction is happening. It's this week and next week, which is why we had a lot of those games off, a lot of MAC schools off last week, is to clear room for the Maction. And the last game here, Eric, is I'm a little surprised at the spread. Liberty on the road against Ole Miss. Ole Miss only a 9.5-point favorite. I guess with all those hurt wide receivers, that'll do it. But 67.5 is the over here. What do we think of this game, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, the wide receivers are one thing. It's pretty well tread in terms of what's happening to them. But, gosh, you got to give it to Auburn. Again, they shut down the Ole Miss rushing attack last game. I mean, we've been seeing Henry Parrish, Snoop Connor, Jerrion Ely be extremely productive. Last game, they only averaged 4 yards per carry. And, I mean, Jerrion Ely only got 3 carries for 1 yard. It makes me think, did he get banged up? I haven't heard any reports about that yet. But I think more will be coming out as the week progresses. That's certainly something to be concerned about. And if he is out, well, even though Parrish, 12 carries, 57 yards last game, Snoop, 10 for 47 and a touch, I think you got to roll out one of those if you have them. Probably Connor, since he seems to be the goal line back, and they seem to be kind of splitting it down the middle, even though Parrish is a little bit better in the passing game. But I would be very, if you're in a spot where you have some bye weeks, I would certainly give much consideration to starting one of those two, since they're going to have to lean on the run game, and they have more often. Ja'Cory Pearson, I think, would have to be in your lineup, and he's pretty widely owned as well. And a guy that we will get to in my Fantastic Four segment, Casey Kelly. Finally, Casey Kelly is back from injury at tight end, and he looks to be a worthy heir apparent to Mr. Kenny Boa, who is now in the NFL and lit it up last year. So obviously you got to start Corral if you have Corral. I don't see any way you can sit him, but man, his passing numbers have taken a hit over the past couple of weeks due to the attrition in the wide receiver core. In fact, I think John had mentioned earlier in the show how I think Corral and Walker are pretty much right there. I think Corral might even still be ahead of Walker. It depends on the book and those Heisman odds. I cannot believe that Matt Corral is above Kenneth Walker still in any of those books.
He should have
given
been.
The relative. Yeah, I just don't understand over his performance over the past couple of weeks. Losing against Auburn, of course, and just underperforming. So I think Kenneth Walker in a big showcase game, he has to be that number 2 guy right there with, my opinion, C.J. Stroud. And then on the other side, Liberty, obviously Malik Willis. Wind him up and let him go. You got to play him. Obviously, I mean, he had the pleasure of facing my UMass Minutemen, who, all you out there who listen to me on that over 1.5 wins for UMass, this is our time. This is when This is what we've been hoping for, okay? Rhode Island this week, right? Rhode Island at home. At home. Homecoming as well at home. And then next week, Maine for Senior Day. So they made sure they loaded up. You'll have at least 300 people in the stands for those games, given the importance of homecoming and Senior Day. And I think they take it home in one of those games. I think UMass wins. But that being said, I have a hard time with their rushing attack, trying to predict what Liberty's going to do. TJ Green did it last week. Who's going to be? It's going to be Shedrow. He also had a touchdown, and in the all-time name Hall of Fame, I love Shedrow. What a great name. Also, interestingly, against UMass, we saw Caden Salter get some reps. It's a high top 10 quarterback recruit for Tennessee who was dismissed in the summertime, still got there early enough to be able to get some reps. Big-time dynasty potential there with him. And obviously you have C.J. Daniels, you got Demario Douglas, DJ Stubbs, Noah Firth. There's, again, a lot of wide receivers to consider. I have a hard time against, an SEC defense really in what is coming down the stretch, important must-win weeks to trot out those Liberty receivers. So I'm going to recommend to stay away on that, provided you have enough depth in the receiver core.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like they might be playing musical chairs there anyway. So, but let's go to the Fantastic Four. John, you're up first. What do you got for week number 10?
First, Eric, if UMass wins 3 games, I will buy a UMass t-shirt. I will wear it.
Let's go, UMass.
Let's go, Minutemen. If they get 3, I got the t-shirt.
Keep in mind, John, that might be a proclamation you don't want to make, because you have those 2 FCS teams. Plus, at the end of the season, they have New Mexico State, which is always in play. So, they got 3 shots
Definitely
to get 2 wins.
Right.
Hey, I will gladly wear my UMass t-shirt pridefully. I have to get one of the ones with the Minutemen logo on it for sure. All right, so my Fantastic Four this week. On a little better team than UMass and UConn. I got to make fun of my UConn too. I wish I could win 3 games. So I'm jealous there, But we'll go Chase Garbers, the Cal quarterback. They started off bad. I believe they were 1-5. They've won 2 of the last 3 weeks now. Garber, I had to start him in 1. I have a league that you have to play 3 quarterbacks. I actually like it a lot. 12.
I do too.
3 quarterbacks is super challenging. So, but it forces you to dig even deeper than we normally dig for starters. But Garber, 34 points last week. In 4 of the last 5 games, he's gone over 21 points. He's on a roll. He's definitely worth picking up here. They play the aforementioned Arizona. They probably have the game of the year against USC, but USC put up numbers. California
they were against BYU week 1 too. Arizona was
yeah.
They were decent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I don't mess with Arizona, right?
That's why I don't mess.
I'll take Chase Garbers, but I'm not going to take the pick against the Wildcats again.
There you go. Hey, California, I would think you're motivating the team. They have a potential bowl bid if they get above 500 here, if they can run the table. So my Mr. Fantastic is Chase Garbers. I'm looking at him. He's on 26% of rosters right now. So he's easily available, most likely. If you need a quarterback, that's my Mr. Fantastic. My thing in the backfield, we have all loved the Utah running back for a long time. They have been very good to us in this system. We did not have one early in the year. Drove us all crazy. But Tavian Thomas right now is playing great football. 2 of the last 4 games, over 110 yards rushing. He has scored 8 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Now, he had 4 against UCLA last week, so the numbers. But he has scored each of the last 4 games. He's averaging over 20 carries a game, and Utah takes on Stanford. We know what the Utes are going to do. They are going to run the football. I like Tavian Thomas here. The offenses come together. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later, but they're playing better, the Utes. My thing is Tavian Thomas. And my human torch, it really came to once I found out Drake London was out. Man, it's losing Drake London is so depressing. However, that opens up targets and opportunities. You have Taj Washington and Gary Bryant. I decided to go with Gary Bryant this week. I think he will be more likely to be in that slot inside role. I mean, not Keaton Slovis. Amon-Ra St. Brown got peppered in that role. Michael Pittman got peppered in that role. Drake London was just uber. If Gary Bryant gets that role, and I think he should, you never know what these coaches do until you see it. But my human torch this week is Gary Bryant, regardless of if both quarterbacks play, if one quarterback plays. I like Gary Bryant. He's only on 15% of rosters right now. He's a good player to pick up down the stretch because of the Trojans system with Harrell. He's my human torch. And then the last one, because we just mentioned more quarterbacks have been going out. It's crazy. Every time you look around on Twitter, another quarterback's out or seriously injured. Another Cameron Rising. He is definitely worth picking up. He's available in 87% of leagues. In the last month, 23, 25, 26, 32 fantasy points. I obviously wouldn't pick up two Utes at once, but Cameron Rising is my invisible girl. If you need a quarterback this week, Utah's playing better football. They have their two players. They're funneling the quarterback and the running back. They're getting it done. That's my Fantastic Four this week.
Every single time I hear John say Utes, I think of Joe Pesci and My Cousin Vinny. So the two Utes. So but it does make sense here. Eric, what do you have for the Fantastic Four for Week 10?
Yeah, well, I'd like to at least piggyback a little bit on what John said. Absolutely. I'm a big Gary Bryant Jr. fan. I feel like he's the most explosive receiver. Obviously, Drake London excluded here, but I love Gary Bryant Jr. I have him a couple of dynasty leagues, have him in the 50-teamer, have him in my home league. I will be starting him this week since I do have some tough buys, and I think that's a great recommendation. Obviously, Taj Harris is more widely owned. I want to say he's probably close to that, in the 30% range, with Gary Bryant just at 13, I believe 15%.
He is more owned. I looked at both of them. So Bryant was actually a better, just because more people could pick him up.
Yeah, and I frankly, I'd rather have him. I just think he's better than Taj Washington. I'm a fan. So I love that recommendation. And also, I would like to say, watching the Utes game last on Saturday night, because I stay up until every single Saturday. I watch every game from when they start until they go until the end. All right. I go till 3 a.m. every single Saturday. So I got to watch that Utes game, and they were comparing Cameron Rising to getting mistaken for Keanu Reeves on campus. I'd like to offer a little pushback on that. No offense to Mr. Rising, but I see Dave Grohl.
Okay.
Cam
I
Rising.
see that. Yeah.
That's my comp to Cam Rising, with the hair, the stash. He's even got like the Three Musketeers gimmick going, with a little bit of the flavor saver on the below the lip with the mustache. So I'm going Dave Grohl, with all due respect for Cam and the nickname Mr. Mojo Rising, of course. We'll go with the double rock and roll, a double entendre, the Jim Morrison reference, to go with Dave Grohl. Next, my Fantastic Four. At quarterback, Chase Bryce for Appy has been really good the past 4 weeks, and this is obviously an offense that has relied upon the Cam Peoples, Noel, Dietrich Harrington court trio for pretty much the past few years. They always have those stout running backs, great offensive line, and they're just pummeling teams. But Chase Bryce, you got to give it to him. He has turned himself around since being a fairly mediocre quarterback at Duke. He's put up at least 29 points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues in 3 of the past 4 games, with the lone stinker being that 41-13 evisceration at the hands of an excellent UL Lafayette team. But hey, they ain't playing UL Lafayette this week. They're playing everybody's fantasy dream, the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Because if you have an offensive player that you're on the fence about playing, if you see Arkansas State on the schedule, put them in. So at a sparse 11% ownership, Chase Bryce, man, roll him out there. Absolutely. If you need somebody, that's my call without a doubt for a quarterback. Next, we mentioned a little bit Trey Siggers. John did earlier in the show, and at a 5% ownership. He was 3% coming into the waiver period. He's now at 5%. I just read a report today that Luis Bentley, who was for the first time in weeks was a quote full go, no restrictions on him. He broke a long run that got called back on a holding penalty, and he actually twisted his ankle, where that wasn't the initial injury. This is a new injury. He just seems like he can't stay on the field, and he's somewhat slightly built. So I have concerns about it.
Yeah,
he is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And Siggers is a little more compact. Like, if you're looking at how he's built, like he can go and put it on somebody if he wants to lower the shoulder. A little more versatile, good in terms of he is. He's thicker, Yeah. And he's pretty good in blitz pickup. We watched that game. That was an important game. Houston and SMU last week. So I was watching, can he do it? You can pick up blitzes, pretty good catching the ball, and the opportunity that he's going to have is going to be substantial because, let's face it, I mean, they're playing Memphis. As we talked about, if Peter Parrish picked a pickle, goes and starts again, I mean, I don't know if he threw a pass beyond the 20-yard mark. It was just short. He neutered Calvin Jackson in that game, just absolutely took all the wind out of his sails. That really hurt a lot of people in the fantasy realm. If he's starting again, that really kills their passing attack. Dykes, Calvin Jackson, and that's, I have doubts whether or not that they can sustain drives in that game. So I really like the idea of Siggers going out there. And frankly, in terms of consistency, he's been double digits each of the past 5 weeks. That's even including a game against TCU, which obviously doesn't seem so great anymore, but 14.5, 13.5, 20.1, 24.3. So it's been a consistent increase in terms of his role as Sonny Dykes has trusted him more and more. Caught 3 passes for 49 yards and a touch last game too. I love seeing those, free points. Anytime you see a guy who can catch passes, they're generally going to get a pretty decent amount of yardage along with the PPR volume. I want to make sure I brand them correctly, John. That was Chase Bryce, Mr. Fantastic. My thing, Trey Siggers, Human Torch, the Tez dispenser, as I like to call him. Tez Johnson, Troy, he has been really consistent this year. In terms of the past 6 games, he's had at least 6 catches in 5 of them. And the one that he didn't was last week against an excellent Coastal Carolina team where he caught 4 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. So he didn't have a bad game. He just didn't have the volume. But, I mean, you look at Southern Miss, 10 catches, $106. UL Monroe, 6 for 27. South Carolina, 6 for 49. Georgia Southern, 6 for 38. But then when he really started to turn it on was October 16th. And the reason why is Reggie Todd has himself in some Henry Ruggs-esque hot water with the legal community. You're not going to see him back this season. And as a senior, he ain't coming back ever. Let me personally assure you of that. So with Reggie Todd, who had been previously, Tez was pretty much that number 2 option, definitely has been the number 1 guy. Tez has taken over, 9 for 81 and a touch against Texas State. And then obviously the aforementioned 4 for 88 and 1 against Coastal Carolina. He is the focal point of a high-volume pass offense. Has gotten better since they benched Taylor Powell. I really like Tez Johnson. And only at 5% ownership, even after waivers ran, he's still widely available. You can get him for a freebie at this point. And
all your guys are under 10%. I like that, Eric.
Yeah, I like to do the deep shots, I like the dynasty, looks. It helps because not everybody is in shell leagues. There's a lot of deep leagues out there because you have 130 teams to sift through. So I feel like those are relevant, especially in as we get later on. So I appreciate that, Scotty. And then my last guy, we talked about him a little bit before, Casey Kelly. Casey Kelly, John. I don't recall exactly what your preseason ranks were, but I know that in general around the community, he was right around a top 10, sometimes in some spots, top 15 tight end in the preseason. But he got hurt, and you didn't see him pretty much for the first entire half of the schedule. However, last week, with a dearth of available options, you saw him take over the role of the previously mentioned Kenny Yeboah and really become an important part of that passing offense. Him, Ja'Cour Pearson, both of them, depending on what Ja'Cour Pearson's ownership is, you certainly have to consider him. But I love Casey Kelly. Only 4% owned at this point. He's going to be thrown to. He's going to have at least 5 catches. You're probably looking in the 50, 60-yard mark, might get in. That's a pretty good day for a tight end that you're getting off the wire. Only 4% owned, and you're putting in case it's a tough spot. I think Derek Deese is out this week, too. For guys who have him, maybe not, but that's definitely somebody I like as at that tight end role. So those are my Fantastic Four.
All right, for me, I'm going to start out at quarterback here with Frank Harris from UTSA going up against UTEP. UTEP's been winning, playing good defense, but it's not like they faced the hardest schedule in the country here, right? So they played Florida Atlantic, who they lost to last week.
One of the easiest.
Yeah. Louisiana
Absolutely.
Tech, Southern Miss, Old Dominion, New Mexico, Bethune-Cookman. So the one time they faced a UTSA level offense was Boise State in week 2, and they gave up 54 points. So I think that UTSA is going to murder UTEP. I think this 11.5 line is a joke. I think it should be way bigger than that. So UTSA going to be one of my favorite teams to pick this week, 100%. Then look at running back. I originally had the aforementioned Jalen Knighton that John was talking about before, but I read today that he was in a red jersey at practice, non-contact jersey. So
Cody
that
Brown
is,
time. Oh,
yeah.
I picked him up in a Dino League. Yes.
So I think Jalen Knighton's going to be good to go, but since I'm not sure, John, let's go back to the well, right? We said it last week, and he had 200 yards rushing. Keontae Ingram had an enormous game for USC, and he has become their guy. Always been a good running back. He was great at Texas, but when you bring in a guy like Bijan Robinson, no one's going to start. Kenneth Walker wouldn't start over Bijan Robinson. So Keontae Ingram the last 2 weeks against Notre Dame, he had 24 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown. This week against Arizona, 27 for 204 and a touchdown and 2 catches. So they're playing ASU, better defense than Arizona, but not as good as Notre Dame. So I see him being somewhere in the middle, and that's over 20 points both the last 2 weeks of the season. Trevin Bradford for Oregon State against Colorado. Colorado is a bad team, and Bradford has really picked it up the last 2 weeks for Oregon State. 2 weeks ago against Utah in a win, 42-34, He had 6 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown, and also had 2 rushes for 20 yards and a touchdown. Last week against Cal, they did lose 25-39, but he had 6 for 124 and 2 touchdowns plus a rush attempt. So they are getting the ball in his hands more. I expect that to happen against Colorado as well. And my tight end is Josh Weil of Cincinnati. He has become one of Desmond Ritter's favorite targets the last 2 weeks. 4 catches in both the games, 1 against Navy, 60 yards, 2 scores, also 2 scores against Tulane last week in the 31-12 win there. So just becoming a target in this offense, and he is still rostered right around 20%. So that is my Fantastic Four. Time to go to the negative zone. Everybody turn your volume down because here comes Johnny. Johnny, what do we got for the negative zone for week number 10, my man?
It's really a whole program because I'm just sick and tired of every year hearing about Iowa State and Matt Campbell. I mean, this was the year, right? They're going to win the Big 12. They're going to beat Oklahoma. They're going to beat Texas. They are by far the best. How many super seniors did they have? Like, this is a veteran team. They have, like, men earning Social Security checks on that roster right now. Like, this is insanity. Everyone came back just for Matt Campbell to go 5-3. They are 5-3. Love Breece Hall. But to hear Brock Purdy is the definition of average. Is there anyone? Half of CFF is better than Brock Purdy. Half of CFF is worse than Brock Purdy. I couldn't even pick him up last week in that 3 starting quarterback league. You know why? He has no upside. Just like Iowa State. They got no upside. They are 5-3. I just don't get it. Every year we got to hear about how great this Matt Campbell is. Really? 9-3, 7-6, 8-5 looks pretty pedestrian to me. And he has a 3-9 season thrown in there. I don't believe any of it anymore. I'm out. I'm done. Matt Campbell, Iowa State, you are in the negative zone.
Love it. And that was a calm one for John. I love it. Look, I'm not going to make fun of Iowa State because Texas plays them this week and they're probably going to get smoked. But Eric, negative zone for you. This is an interesting one. I like it.
Well, this one's fresh off the presses, guys. The CFP committee, College Football Playoff Committee, literally right before we went to air, released their top 25 rankings. And oh my God, is this one of the worst? I cannot believe what I'm watching here. First off, okay, all right. You want to make the case to keep Cincinnati out, even though they beat Notre Dame? All right, I respect it. Number 10 ranked Notre Dame, right? I can respect that. Oregon is number 4. You put that Oregon team in the 4th spot? Do these people watch football?
I know they're not number
Anthony
4.
Brown?
They're
Anthony
not.
Brown. No way. Have you watched that man play quarterback? Good God. They are dead money. Whichever team they play, Georgia, Alabama, whoever it is, they're going to get crushed. I mean, they have
Georgia will whoop them.
Annihilate them. I mean, it's not going to be close. Whoever they play, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. I cannot envision a scenario where they actually go to the college football playoff. I don't want to live in that world. They lost to Stanford. Okay? Come on, guys. Come on here. Okay? They're 6-point favorites against Washington. Have you seen that offense?
It's all because they beat Ohio State. That's it.
Yeah, but they beat Ohio State. All right. Second game of the season. All right. Ohio State was one of the least experienced teams in the country coming in. They had to take their lumps and get everybody together and get the continuity together. Obviously, they have a good wide receiver core, but they're breaking in a new QB. Their defensive line, you can lose Togiai, Cooper, those guys, in the middle, obviously, they're losing their linebackers. They lost both their starting corners. Oh, actually, no, Banks is still there, but they lost Sean. All right, well, at least they don't have Sean Wade. That's addition by subtraction. Fair. Sean Wade stinks. But, you're looking at a team that had to have some continuity. Obviously, a new running back in Trevion Henderson. That's why they lost in week 2. Stroud is still getting his feet under him. This is a different Ohio State team that has been coming on in the past few weeks. I think they play again. It's going to be a bloodbath. But Ohio State, Cincinnati, Oklahoma's 9-0. Are you kidding me? Oklahoma's 8th? What's going on here? What's going on? And
you know what's going to happen?
Cincinnati.
You know what's going to happen?
Look, do you hate the G5?
No, they definitely do. There's no money in it. Here, it's all about the money. Follow the money. Cincinnati doesn't bring fans. But Oregon's going to be 10-1, and they're going to lose to Oregon State. They are going to end the season with the loss to the Beavers, and that's going to prove everyone that Oregon does not deserve a shot at the postseason. Sorry, the Pac-12, I love them, but they're not in this class. No way. No way.
No way. And 2, my next point, besides that being just insane, Oklahoma at number 8 at 9-0 with Caleb Williams at the helm.
I know.
What's going on? Who are these people who are making this decision? What's going on? Like, is Condoleezza Rice still on the committee? I don't know. I know she was for a while. I mean, Condi, whoever you are, all these people, get a grip. The bleep is going on here? Oklahoma 8.
What
Stupid.
the French toast? Yeah.
What is going on behind freaking Oregon? Oregon's the fourth. That's disgusting. That being said, my last point on this before I have an aneurysm. The disrespect shown to the G5. I mean, you have besides.
Are you shocked though? You can't be surprised by that.
I am a little bit shocked. All right. I don't think Iowa deserves to be in the top 25 after how exposed they have gotten the past couple of weeks. That is not an offense that should be anywhere near anything related to the top 25. Kentucky's been exposed as being a fraud the last week. Got absolutely worked by Mississippi State. Okay, I don't believe it. I don't believe in them. I'll just tell you that much. Fresno State and San Diego State at 23 and 24. That's it. No Coastal, no UTSA, no Houston, no SMU. Look, I mean, maybe I have a soft spot for the AAC because they're a fantasy gold mine. But, I mean, Minnesota at 20, 6-3 Minnesota at 20. You don't want one of those other teams over Minnesota? The trick-or-treat Golden Gophers? I am revolted by the CFP, top 25. I think it's absolutely terrible. Negative zone all day.
So AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco said it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The committee doesn't rank our teams that deserve to be ranked, and then they turn around and say they don't play any ranked teams. So that's interesting. From the AAC, and it's fair. I believe so too. Luckily, we're gonna have it's just going to be. By the way, Soler just launched a 3-run shot for Atlanta. So 3-zip Atlanta.
Night Houston.
3-zip.
No.
Oh,
I mean, you don't say that because Atlanta got up last
Houston,
game.
Are you in Houston since you're living in Conroe now, my friend?
No, I'm a Diamondbacks fan, so I don't care who wins. So it doesn't make any difference to me. My team is still terrible.
Good, because everyone else hates Houston. I do.
Yeah, I honestly, I like the Astros for a long time. Cheating stuff did kind of rub me the wrong way, but I think every team was cheating. So I don't think it's nearly as big a deal as people make it out to be. But I don't care if they win or lose is the bottom line here. But anyway, for my negative zone, I mean, how can it not be
as a Sox fan?
Yeah, the Sox were doing it too, Fair. Eric. Don't kid yourself. Come on. They were not probably to the extent that the Astros were. Yeah, and they hired the ringleader of it. So
they hired him. Yeah. How can I sit here and complain, right?
Yeah. It was very strange.
Like, all right.
But getting back to my negative zone here, we'll stay in the state of Texas and go to my Texas Longhorns again for another third week in a row because they don't make any goddamn second half adjustments. I don't understand. Look, I think Baylor was just better than us, number one. So I think that, Texas was going to lose this game either way, but to get up and lose again in the same fashion for 3 weeks in a row is so frustrating. And guess what I think is going to happen this week against Iowa State? How could I not expect this to happen? It's happened 3 weeks in a row. So this is where Matt Campbell's going to make his money against Sarkisian, Kwiatkowski, and all those guys. I am sick of getting leads and blowing them. It is pissing me off. So figure it out. We just paid you a ton of money, Sarkisian. Figure it the F out. I am sick of it. Let's go to bold predictions, Shawnee. What do you got?
Before you go, Scott, I do want to know, does their special teams coach get thrown in the negative zone, Scotty?
I mean, everyone gets thrown in the negative zone.
Well,
I'm
you
sick
know
of the
about
whole
that
thing.
story, right? Have you heard about that story?
I do not care what he does in his off time. It makes as long as he's not Henry Ruggs, it doesn't make any difference.
Is that not amazing? A monkey attack on Halloween from the.
Put the monkey up is what I would say. Like, why are we talking about monkeys on this show? This is how far down the rabbit hole that we're going. We're talking about monkey attacks.
The only loser,
but it's a Texas monkey attack.
It is. And by the way, there's more.
Is that not a
there are
perfect
more
metaphor
tigers
for the Texas season?
There are more tigers in the state of Texas than there are in the wild, by the way, which is just a ridiculous number. But am I surprised? I mean, it was a weird goddamn story seeing a monkey attack because this stripper, I guess, that our special teams coach divorced his wife to marry, owns a monkey. And the monkey attacked the kid trick-or-treating or something. So very, very strange.
And her name is the Pole Assassin. I mean,
that's her.
on.
That's
Is
her
that
nickname she got on the Jerry Springer show.
On the Jerry Springer show. I mean,
or Maury or one of them. I don't know.
Is that not a perfect euphemism for the entire Texas season?
It is a circus. Yeah, it's a circus, Eric. It's literally a circus. So
sorry, buddy.
But
I'm sorry.
I mean,
would the monkey be put down for this?
Yeah. Yep.
The only loser's the monkey.
Well, the kid,
and it's not his fault. He's a wild animal, for Christ's sake.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, you attack a person. That's rule one. It's like robots do no harm. Oh yeah.
No harm.
It's the owner's fault. It's always the owner's fault. So whether it's I don't know if it's him or his wife's or whoever, but somebody put the goddamn monkey away on Halloween. I hate that we're talking about this.
I'm sorry, Scotty. It's topical, man. I mean, that's
no. Look, I'm not blaming you, but it's embarrassing. You're talking about stripper-owned monkeys for my team instead of the on-the-field product. So I'm just sick of it. John, bold prediction, make one so I can get out of this. For God's sake.
I will respectfully disagree with you this week, Scott. I think Texas is actually going to win.
Your negative zone was just Iowa State, and they're playing in this game. So,
we got two people here. The Texas and Iowa State programs are not very good. I'll take the 7 points. I'm getting a full touchdown in this Breece Hall versus Bijan Robinson. They each should get 30 carries in this game. Can't wait to see it. But I'll take the Longhorns +7 that they can cover in this game on the road. I love Boise State versus Fresno. I know if you look quickly, you might think Boise State, but they can play football. They're getting better as the season goes along. I like their defense. I think they can slow Fresno. They're on the road here, but I'll take the 5 points.
Is Ray Rivers back or no?
No, I don't think so. It looks like Jordan Mims should be the starter again. And then I'm going to take Tennessee at Kentucky +1. Kentucky's had some chinks in the armor on defense. Josh Heupel's offense is still producing. Last time, I believe, we just saw them lose against Alabama, but I thought they played better than I expected against the Crimson Tide. Hendon Hooker's here. I'll take the Volunteers +1. So take Texas +7, Boise State +5, Texas +1.
All right, Eric, you got one I love and one I hate. So let's hear them.
I'm going to go with North Texas. We'll go with a 3-teamer too. That seems to be the theme. It seems to be the theme of the day here. You guys are all underdogs. I'm going to throw one favorite in here. I'm going to go with North Texas -4.5 over Southern Miss. I don't know if you guys realize this, but last week against Middle Tennessee, though their defense was pretty decent, Southern Miss, they've only scored 23 points over the past 3 games. And
not good.
They are so bad on offense that they
How bad are they? I got him with that one.
I was going to put a monkey reference in there, but I didn't think it was appropriate.
Come on.
Yeah, they're as bad as the decision-making skills of the Texas special team coordinator. That's what I'll say how bad they were. But, they actually allowed Middle Tennessee State with a backup quarterback in and not doing anything offensively to return 3 turnovers for touchdowns. When was the last time you've seen that in a game? 3
when I played Madden
defensive touchdown. Yeah, literally. It sounds like I'm making it up. Oh, they didn't. Oh, no, they're that inept. One was a blocked punt. Of course, because what are they going to be good at special teams when they can't do anything else? No. This is the freaking terrible run team. Only 4.5. hey, is Texas Seth Luttrell? He ain't bad. I mean, they're scoring points at least. North Texas. They've been much better since replacing Jake Ruder with Austin Owen, and they've been putting points up. I think they scored 86 points over the past 3 games. Sure, I mean, they gave Liberty all they could handle. They beat Rice last week, who has had some pretty good, showings. They're not great, but I mean, hey, it's a win, and it's more than you're getting out of Southern Miss against an FBS team. So I think 4.5 points just is too little for that. Illinois plus 14.5 over Minnesota, over the 20th ranked Minnesota by the CFP, College Football Playoff Committee. I had to get that in there because I don't believe them. I feel like they're just a trick-or-treat team. You don't know what you're getting each week. Illinois in their power run game. Minnesota just lost Bryce Williams. He's like the 5th freaking running back they have to go out for the season. So, it's going to be the Kai Thomas show again over there, but I just don't trust them. They're not consistent. You don't know what they're going to do on a week-to-week basis. Give me 14 plus the hook, the 14.5. Give it to me. And then a game that Scott had mentioned that I really like as well, Central Michigan plus 10. Give it to me. This is the MAC, baby. Okay? This is the MAC. Western Connecticut. Sorry, Connecticut. My bad, Johnny. Western Michigan had that big game, that big win against Pitt. But you got to remember, once they got into MAC play, they're 2-2. They've been up and down. They've had really turnover problems, inconsistency in terms of defensive and offensive performance, with Caleb Ellaby. And Central Michigan, as Scotty rightfully pointed out, this is a pretty good team. Jim McElwain coach, legitimate offensive guru, Lou Nichols. Daniel Richardson has a 14-2 touchdown interception ratio since he became the starter, took over for Washington transfer, Jake Sermon. I just think their teams in 2 different directions. You're going to give me 10 points for Central Michigan. Big rivalry game. Not a far trip for Central Michigan. It's not like they're going across the country or anything. Give me the Chippewas on a 3-teamer right there.
By the way, this Toledo and Eastern Michigan Maction game is crazy. Eastern Michigan just scored with 4 minutes left in the half to go up 24-21, and Toledo returned the kickback. So it's 28-24 Toledo with 3 minutes 45 seconds left in the second quarter. So I hope we bet the over on this game, whoever bet this one. So the one I didn't like there, Eric, I don't know if you heard me before from when you froze up a little bit, was just the Minnesota's been real good since losing to Bowling Green, right? So that's the one that I'm kind of questioning. But look, you can question all of mine because I've been terrible at this. I think I hit a 3-team parlay one week, and my bold predictions on this show have been horrific ever since then. But I'm going to take all plus points here. Give me Navy plus 20.5 against Notre Dame. Don't love it, but I love the 20.5 points because Navy's been playing everyone they play tough for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So they've been real good. Then Mississippi State plus 5.5 against Arkansas. Just saw Mississippi State win a big game, and I think Arkansas kind of trending the other direction. So I will take the points there, and I'll take the points for ULM against Texas State. I think they beat Texas State straight up. The offense has figured it out. Doesn't really matter which quarterback is in there. This Rich Rod offense is going to work. I think Jaya Wright might be the best one of all of them to take over because we all remember Denard Robinson for this Rich Rod offense, and I think he kind of has that same skill set. So a lot of fun to watch him play in that game last week. So that is my bold predictions, and that is the show for us this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Before we go, remember, follow us all on Twitter at Bogdan Sports for me, at Career and Skull 91 for John, at CF Roton for Eric. Johnny, what do you have coming up for us this week?
Every week on Fantrax, check out my weekly waiver wire gemstones column. It just was published last night. It's up there right now. Get your playoff rosters in shape. Win yourself a championship. Go to Fantrax now.
And Eric, what do we have coming up for you this week?
The usual slate of columns. Obviously, be on the lookout. I've been absolutely scorching hot on the prop stuff.
You got to go. If you're playing props, you got to go. You got to listen to that show, man. You got to listen to what Eric's saying. He is crushing it right now.
It's true. And, to his, to his horn as well, Mike Bainbridge on our Saturday morning show. I don't think we have missed on a Prize Picks recommendation between the two of us in like a month. We went 4-0 this week. We went 4-0 the week before on our Prize Picks. Like, I love some of those Prize Picks lines. They're soft as it gets. I mean, you have to play 2 plays. You can't just do one individually, but my God, we have been absolutely dominating it. And I sincerely recommend, if you play Prize Picks, definitely give that Saturday morning show on BetSports between myself and Mike Bainbridge, 10:30 a.m. a listen, because we seem to have a pretty good pulse on it.
By the way, Eastern Michigan just ran a flea flicker and threw a pick. So very interesting way to round that out. But this is a wild game. But for me, I have this show, obviously, I have CFP Winning Edge with Nick, and I have Betting Pros. I usually do that with Joe Pizzapia, but Joe is out this week. So I invited Nick on. So Nick is going to be doing the Betting Pros show with me. We go over the nationally televised games and just break them down, whether we like them or if it's more of a lean that we go over in that game. And my Betting Pros article, 6-4 this week. Should have been 8-2. Should have been my best week, but I had that Florida State under and the ULM plus 27.5. Those both screwed me. So I'm upset about that, but still over 500. And I believe I am 9 games over 500 for
hell
the year.
Yeah,
so,
Scotty. Yeah.
I pick 10 games a week. So that's what I do every single week. So please check that out if you guys would. It's over on bettingpros.com. And in this league, I've got, fantasy football. We have Bet This League that we put out on Fridays as well. Baseball coming back for us next week after the World Series. We should have some ADPs from a mock coming as well. So it's all churning in this league. So please check out all that stuff. And good luck, everyone. And we will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.
Why take music lessons at Levine Music? Because music needs you. It needs your spark, your fire, your unique voice, the one you can share with the world when you learn, practice, and play here. Young or old, new to music, or more experienced, whether you're into classical, jazz, or rock and roll, you'll find outstanding instructors and a welcoming community at each of our 6 campuses. Enroll today at levinemusic.org.
Does that extra hour of sleep actually do anyone any good? It's just one night. The secret to getting a great night's sleep every night is the GelFlex Grid, and only Purple has it. That's what makes Purple mattresses soft where you want it, firm where you need it, and instantly respond to movement. Plus, it's 80% air, so you won't sleep too hot or too cold. Now that you know the secret to a great night's sleep, take advantage of this limited time offer. Get a free set of sheets and 2 pillows with the purchase of select mattresses at purple.com/sleepwell. Terms apply.
Cloud is powering tomorrow's transformative missions. Federal agencies are partnering with SAIC to help them meet these critical moments, where bold moves require confident blueprints, where you can accelerate transformation through consistency, where you can innovate forward and never look back. SAIC quickly and securely migrates large-scale workloads to the cloud with the confidence you need to assure your mission. Learn more at SAIC.com/cloud.
Everybody needs just the right amount of fuel to get going in the morning. For some, a nice McDonald's egg and cheese bagel is just enough to do it. Others might prefer a McDonald's bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. Or perhaps a sausage, egg, and cheese bagel. And there are those where nothing will do but a hearty McDonald's steak, egg, and cheese bagel. 4 different breakfast bagels to get you going. Tomorrow morning, give your engine a head start at participating McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Why take music lessons at Levine Music? Because music needs you. It needs your spark, your fire, your unique voice, the one you can share with the world when you learn, practice, and play here. Young or old, new to music, or more experienced, whether you're into classical, jazz, or rock and roll, you'll find outstanding instructors and a welcoming community at each of our 6 campuses. Enroll today at levinemusic.org.
Life is full of firsts. First steps and first successes. First dates, and first dances. First looks and first loves. For every first, make your health first.
This is the first day of my life.
Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's not just our name, it's our promise.
If you're a small business, there's a store just for you, where you can shop for health plans and compare options too. The one-stop insurance shop is fast, easy, the smart place to go when you need help making a choice. Get advice from a real-life pro. It's United Healthcare, you know all along. It's quality coverage with a network that's strong. The one-stop insurance shop.
Visit anytime at smallbusiness.uhc.com.
Make your next career move your best. Verizon Retail offers the potential to earn up to $50,000 annually and amazing benefits starting on day one, including product discounts and tuition assistance. Apply today at verizon.com/retail careers.